Mark with Kardashev Academy here. Haha, little color change action. And today I'm very excited because we're going to be talking about Crown Magnetar, Bringer of Dead Light. And the reason I'm excited is because I actually really like Crown Magnetar, but I don't think I've ever talked about them on the channel. I don't think we've covered a song. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I am an extreme vocal coach, harsh metal vocal coach. I don't know what you want to call it. I teach people how to make cool metal vocal noises safely and efficiently so they don't hurt themselves. Been doing it since 2019. I've given over 5,000 vocal lessons. I'm also the vocalist in a band called Kardashev. We're on Metal Blade Records. Feel free to check us out. And I'm here to bring you some vocal education in the format of a reaction and analysis video. So let's do it. Let's check out Crown Magnetar, Bringer of Dead Light. Here we go. That unique leader splash always startles me every time. Every time. Okay, I'm gonna pause there. I heard that break in the vocals and I was like, ooh, good place to pause. But we heard some highs coming in. That's okay. So just a reminder, this is primarily a educational channel. So there's a lot of pausing. If you don't like the pausing and the information on harsh vocals, download Spotify and shush your mouth. Just kidding. You can be mad at me in the comments. It's good for engagement. So this is a really good example of, I'm really glad this song is starting this way, right? This released just recently, right? This came out 4 hours ago. I didn't know I was that on top of it. Geesh. I mean, this is going to be going up Sunday, but this is a really good example of one of the main things I love about Dan's voice is how he is able to be so deep and cavernous, but also articulate, right? Now, if you know me, if you've watched the channel enough, you know that I don't care about articulation as like a virtue, enunciation as a virtue. I think it's cool when people can do it, but sometimes, you know, sometimes you want to be super articulate. Other times you just want to sound like a sludgy puddle of mud, huh? Dan here is able to kind of bring those worlds together. And it's really interesting how different ways that you can do this. Now, again, this is the first time I'm hearing it. So, you know, sometimes I might be a little bit off and I've never spoken with him directly. Would love to get him on the channel though. But one of the ways that you can do this, one of the ways that you can kind of like hack your enunciation is by building all of your syllables on a specific tongue shape. Anybody who likes deathcore and is interested in deathcore vocals knows that tongue and mouth shapes are of the utmost importance. One of the reasons that he's staying so articulate is because he's holding his tongue as much as is possible in like sort of a curled space, not curled and forward like you would get for a guttural, but more in the middle, creating like a sort of low mid mixture sound. Bringer of dead light. And you can hold on to the words a little bit there. Bringer of dead light. And it sounds, well, you know, I've heard a lot of their discography, but he's been utilizing this for a very, very long time. Now his tongue may slide back and forth. We'll get more into the actual distortion itself soon, but I just wanted to point out that this is one of the things that I think makes him stand out a little bit. There are other vocalists that can do this, but I don't know, for some reason when I listen to Crown Magnetar, I feel like, yeah, I can understand. He's really hitting that crossroads between dank nasty and enunciation, and I think it's really cool. Let's keep going on though, because like I said, we heard some nasty highs and I want to talk more about grit, but that's one thing I want you to pay attention to. You may not understand every single lyric, but you can understand them pretty well usually. Here we go. I think so anyway. Okay, I've done enough of these deathcore vocal analyses is to know, just watch, I'm gonna be wrong. Just watch, I'm gonna be wrong. To know that when you get like that really intense bah into an empty spot, you're gonna get the nasty sludgy breakdown with all the vocals in it, right? So let's go ahead, let's talk more distortion now. Let's talk more distortion now. He didn't do as many highs as I thought he was going to do. So what we have here, a lot of people would lump this under like the fry category, a fry scream, right? For anybody who's new to this vocal landscape, one thing that can be kind of tricky to navigate is that not everybody uses these terms in the same way, right? Fry is a especially kind of tricky description because a lot of people will describe it in different ways. So what I generally do, like I don't avoid talking about fry, but what I generally do is I try to talk less about things in through the terminology of fry, because fry is a vocal register. It's not a piece of anatomy, right? And instead what I like to do is I like to talk about what's going on in a lot of these screams. Now, I don't do personally what's considered by a lot of people as a traditional fry vocal, but I do constrict in a similar way. We'll see more of this down the road when I'll be doing a vocal study with the charismatic voice. I guess I'm taking part of it. I'm not running the study. Thank goodness, that's too much work for me. But the way that you get screams and growls like this, of this similar color, this similar texture, is you must constrict, right? This can sometimes go against our conventional knowledge. And in Dan here, you know, at this point, because he's got a ton of experience, he may not feel very constricted, but if we were to look down his throat with a scope, and we've seen things like this before, we would see the tissues above the vocal cords. These are called the supraglottal tissues. We would see these closing up. And this is something, by the way, that these tissues are meant to be able to do, because when we swallow liquid in food, these tissues close to protect the airway. So it's not that outside of the realms of safety to take your voice and go, right, to create these deep tones. One thing that's very imperative is that the vast majority of the time, we're going to leave our vocal cords disengaged so we don't do damage to them. So when we take this constricted tone, right, and we pair it, or I should say Dan pairs it, with a very wide open mouth, curled tongue and slightly rounded lips, you get these tones, right? Another thing I'm really liking about his voice here, and this is something that's really cool too, and this is something that if you're having trouble reaching low tones, I think that this song is a really good example, because this song is very like low and like mid heavy. Although I don't even know if I'd call these mids. I might call them like slightly brighter lows. You know what I mean? Is that it can be tricky, and what he's doing very well, it can be tricky to narrow the opening of the mouth while still keeping the back, the pharyngeal space open. These are things we kind of have to do at the same time that can be tricky if you don't know how, but I'll show you a quick little exercise. It's super easy, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to yawn. Obviously, we've all seen this everywhere. Everybody's like, Skip, I've seen the, yeah, hold on. I'm going to show you something a little different. Hold your horses. So we're going to yawn. Now we're going to yawn, but we're not going to drop our larynx. Or we're not going to drop it as far, I should say. I like to think of this as sniffing like a bouquet of flowers, or like walking down the street and you walk by a bakery. I remember when I took a trip to Italy and we were in Siena, my wife and I walked past this bakery every morning. And yes, we got pastries every morning, but it's okay. We were walking so much. We kept the weight off. Walkable cities. Am I right? So we had this, we've got this, now holding that hear how big that sounds, right? If I close the back, keep it PG in the comments. If I close the back, not really a very good low. If I keep it open, okay, cool. We're cooking. We're doing something, right? So this is something he's very, very, very good at. And this takes skill, and this takes a little bit of strength and coordination, right? To hold these vocals is a very athletic thing to do, right? These like harsh vocals, singing in general, but harsh vocals especially, are very acrobatic. And the fact that he's going, bop, 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 he's giving himself breaks, but he's going, is a really good example of how much endurance this guy has. But 2 minutes and 48 seconds, I literally, I saw this on the Deathcore subreddit, because sometimes when I don't know what video to do, I check the various subreddits. I see what people are posting. And I didn't. I just was like, Crown Magnetar, let's do it. This is gonna be a short video. We're only okay. All right, short song, short and sweet, folks. Let's keep going. All right, well, I'm going to talk a little bit more because it's a short song. Again, have whatever opinion about it you want. I got to say, I love that like break and then hit right into the merch. Big buildup, pre-orders. I love it though. I'm not making fun of it. I love it. You got to play the game, right? I get it. I understand. Like, look at me. I'm a reactor. Right? Like I use the thumbnails, right? I'm not better than anybody. I love that though. So there are a lot of cool things here. First of all, those whistles, those pig squeals, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be upfront with you. I don't really do those very well. It's just not something I can really replicate. And a big part of the reason for this is because my band Kardashev, not my band, the band I'm in, Kardashev, we are not a pig squealy band. So I have spent the past like 15 years of my vocal career, maybe a little bit more, not working on pig squeals. But I will tell you, I can't give you an example, but I can still tell you how these work, right? First and foremost, it's going to be nearly impossible to do these with a really traditional open false chord vocal, right? Like this, I like collapse to the beat. Like that type of vocal, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to do. Instead, what you want to do is you want to do these more constricted, these narrower vocals. And this tends to work a lot better. This tends to work a lot better with higher fry screams. Things that we would call fry screams, right? Things that are more constricted. And higher register. The way that you get this whistly tone, generally, there are some people who what they'll do is they'll actually get to their whistle register, which my fat baritone vocal cords are not going to do today or probably anytime soon. Baritones can reach their whistle register. It's just yet another thing I've had no reason to do across my vocal career. Some people, what they'll do is they'll sing in their whistle register. So they actually have that vocal cord posture and then they're adding some distortion on top of their whistle register. That's not often what you hear. The majority of the time what you hear is you hear what's closer to overtone singing. I can do that a little bit like this. Do you hear that note? That's that like really bright, like harmonic sitting over top of my main voice. Doing that while you scream. So if you can make these really high, fry type vocals, and you can also do this. Try putting them together. Tongue in sort of a guttural shape is the easiest place to start. It's like you're saying la 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 la. There you go. One thing that he did, which was really cool, is not so. He layered some lows and highs. Okay, that's standard. That's pretty standard. But when he layered the lows and highs, this is the sort of stuff that is imperative, that makes you more than somebody who just knows how to scream, that makes you like a vocalist, right? Is he didn't just layer the lows and the highs, but he created a huge contrast of the embouchure, right? Or armature, as sometimes it's called. That's the openness of the mouth, basically. So he was doing his lows very slurry and sludgy. Basically same technique, right? But like very, which is very like, it's basically like that. Like you talk in that voice, but with your vocals. Very like old school Disfiguring the Goddess, right? Which I love. Which Avoid Leecher, forget about it. And then the high vocals that were back, crazy open. At least that's what it sounded like. Like nuts. Really cool, because then these two screams are going to kind of occupy separate sonic spaces. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a sound engineer. So if I kind of sound kind of stupid there, I'm sorry. But you're going to be able to hear them a lot better. One thing that deathcore vocalists have to get around, don't have to, but oftentimes I listen to a lot of deathcore. For my job, basically. I mean, I do like it, but you know, this is where the majority of the vocal analysis opportunities really are, right? But one thing that deathcore kind of stumbles over itself on is lots of layers, which is cool, but the vocalists don't do anything to separate those layers from themselves, other than just their different types of screams. Our clean coach, Verona, who's on the channel, she does almost all of our clean singing lessons. She actually brought up a cool point about this that applies to clean singing as well, but the mentality is the same. She said when you're doing a harmony, if your main vocal is in like a really connected chest voice, do yours in like a lighter mix, right? If you're doing the higher harmony, if you're doing the lower harmony, do it in a slightly less compressed chest voice. So if you're one, you know, if somebody's got like this, you could have, she could explain it better than I can. This is sort of the same mentality. If it's not just an octave difference or a fifth difference, it's not just a harmony, or in this case, we would just call it a layer because there's not really enough fundamental pitch for us to latch onto a harmony. But make them sound different, right? Make one really bright, make the other really dark and sludgy. Really cool, really simple, right? Well, it's not simple, but it's a surefire way to add contrast. Let's keep going though. This song is cool. They're packing a lot into 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Damn. That was nuts. That like mid into the pig squeal or mid into the whistle, that was sick. That was classy. Very, and you know, I'm glad he didn't do that like nonstop, because another thing that deathcore, again, amazing genre I do most of my analysis on, but it is a genre with its obstacles. One thing that it also stumbles over itself on is that it's full of cool noises, and sometimes people do too much cool noises. It's like there are a lot of bands out there that would do that cool mid to whistle scream like 40 times in the song, and you know, you're allowed to do whatever you want, but you can only have your favorite dish so many times before you get tired of it, right? So I really like that he only did that once, right? Anyways, so there are two things I want to talk about here. The first thing I want to talk about is the nature of his distortion and kind of how you can find a similar distortion for yourself. Maybe not with the exact same technique, but something again with this similar color, texture, and flavor. And the first is that when we are dealing with these compressed tones, right? Some people don't love the term compressed. When we're dealing with these compressed tones, what we're dealing with is pressure control, pressure balance, right? And one of my favorite ways to exemplify this is with a lip bubble or a lip trill, right? Loose, lots of air. Tight, less air, or more pressurized air, I should say. Sitting here making fart noises. And that was actually a good example. That was kind of in the middle. So see how they're all different? So one way that you can play around with this, assuming you already have like a sort of compressed sound, my general go-to when I'm teaching students more compressed, tighter sounds is to do like a Kermit the Frog orc voice. Kermit the Frog here.
Ha ha, more work? Oh, off I go then.
And then we just drop the vocal voice from there.
Hey, please hold.
But once you have something like that, right, this is a little bit more of an advanced thing, but you can still play around with it. Now on Kickstarter, levitating dice for D&D. That sounds awesome. They're probably like $500 or something crazy. But anyways, one thing you can do if you have this, like let's say this is your main tone, right? What you can do is you can breathe into pressure. Now, again, this is a little bit more of an advanced thing. So this is assuming that you have good, nice forward placement. It's assuming you have a good understanding of your breath control. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to breathe into that. And as I breathe into it, I'm going to think about holding onto the air. Again, my vocal cords are disengaged so that I'm not worried about all this subglottal pressure hurting the cords themselves, right? So I'm going to breathe into a little bit more pressure. Here's the start. You can hear I'm getting a crispier tone. What if I do more? That's about as much as I can get. You can also breathe into less. So here's the bass again. Now I'm going to breathe into less. And you get a lot of different cool tones, right? And so depending on what you want, do you want like someone, shaking a bowl of spaghetti, or do you want TV static? You can play around with those different things. And you can kind of constrict in different areas too, a little bit lower, a little bit higher. Right? That was more into a high scream, but you get the idea. The second thing is I really like the way that he is delivering these vocals, right? I really like the way that he's delivering them, right? One thing, and I'll do this with a standard false chord as well, so you can really hear the contrast. What the hell is going on with my hair? It doesn't matter. Who am I trying to impress? Nobody. But I'll do this with a very standard false chord. So you can hear the difference, right? Oftentimes students and vocalists, they work really, really hard to get the tone down. And that makes a lot of sense. That's very important. But their vocals sound really boring, right? Now that's okay if you're beginning. You don't care about sounding cool. You care about comfort and control and safety at the beginning. So really kind of, if you're brand new and you're building a really well-controlled but boring tone, hell yeah, keep it up, right? But what that does is that gets,
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
Like that is a correct false chord. Doing everything right on a technical level. I wouldn't listen to that though. Would you? Would you spin that on Spotify? Probably not. So if I take that scream and I change the way that I am delivering it, right? Or I'm sorry, I use my clean voice to show you the way I'm delivering it.
A, B, C, D,
E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Like who's gonna, nobody would want to listen to a singer like that. Nobody would, birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Nobody's going to listen to that, right? What if instead of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. I do the same technique, but I deliver it like that. Right? Let's give it a try. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Already getting a little bit better.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
That's getting a little bit better, right? And we can play with it and perfect it as we go. A lot of what Dan has is this like very like commanding, like there are different archetypes that I like to think of, right? You've got your Zach De La Rocha or your Fred Durst, which people who are a fan of one of those bands and not the other, don't get mad, but there are some similarities. That is really good for like high sort of like metalcore stuff or certain types of deathcore or things like that. You're like, yo, what's up? My name is Mark.
Hey, yo, what's up? My name is Mark.
Like you've got some cool stuff like that. Then another one of the archetypes that you have is like the Sylvester Stallone. Hey, what's going on? I'm Sylvester Stallone. That's really good for a lot of mid stuff.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Sylvester Stallone.
Right, that's a really good one. And then another one is like a tough guy, like a
Hey, man, get away from my car. Ugh.
that's kind of what I hear him using more. If I take that and use one of these compressed voices, like, I don't remember what the song was called because I'm an idiot. Bringer of Dead Light. Let's just say that was it. I think that's right.
Bringer of dead light. Bringer of dead light.
Sounds better than
Bringer of dead light.
So think about the way you're injecting emotion into it. And what we almost always get from Crown Magnetar is a very dominating, confident aggression. And like that's what we're looking for in metal anyway, right? But that being said, short and sweet, killer song. Really enjoyed it. If this is your first time listening to Crown Magnetar, I mean, they've definitely been picking up. I mean, they've been around for a while. I don't mean to sound, I'm not trying to sound condescending or anything. They're amazing. But I have been noticing in the past couple of years, people talking about them a little bit more. Just watch. They're only a year old and I'm an idiot. I don't think that's right though. But if this is your first Crown Magnetar song and you like it, I definitely suggest checking out their discography because they have some songs that like you didn't even know you could fit that much aggression into 3 to 5 minutes. You know what I mean? But that's it for me. Again, if you like the content, be sure to watch, subscribe, blah, 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 all that stuff. Check us out at cardivoxacademy.com if you're interested in lessons. I give one-on-one vocal lessons. That's what I do for a living. And it's a lot of fun. So that being said, many thanks, much love. I'm out.